Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and I'm so proud and excited to say I'm at the 95th Annual Texas FFA Convention in Dallas, Texas. And today, my guest is Cleo Franklin. He is an author, he is a speaker, he is an entrepreneur, and so much more. First off, I just want to say, hey, Cleo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here. A lot of energy with this Texas FFA convention. I don't know what other places to be. It's a place right here and to talk about the things that are happening with our youth.
Oh, man. Well, we're glad to finally have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. For anybody that hasn't caught it yet, hey, pick up a copy. We just released it, volume 1 of our Texas Leaders Edition for Mission Matters. So Cleo is one of those featured authors. And I guess before we get into the books, because we have some more books to talk about too. Cleo's an author multiple times. So hold a couple more of these and we'll get into these, of course. And he's got another book, I believe you told me, coming out pretty soon as well. So we'll get into this.
Yes.
But before we do, Texas FFA.
Right.
Like where did you first discover or like how did this come across your path?
You know, back in 2011 when I started at Mahindra, and that's Mahindra Americas, which is an agricultural company here. Aaron Alejandro, the foundation director, contacted me, and of course, to expand our sponsorship.
Yeah.
And immediately I was engaged because I think agriculture affects all of us in so many different ways, and we built a relationship. So I joined the Texas FFA Foundation Board in 2012 and proud member to this very day.
Oh,
so
man.
That's where it began.
Wow, what a story. Yeah, Aaron, for everybody that's watching this show for a long time, you'll know I talk about him all the time, but Growing Our Future podcast, go check it out. If you haven't checked it out yet, that Aaron Alejandro brings these amazing guests on there, and that's a Texas FFA Foundation show. So just had to give a little plug there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. So how did you get started on your path and really as an entrepreneur?
Well, I believe probably the biggest thing that happened for me is growing up in Chicago. My parents, by the way, both grew up in agriculture. My mother grew up on a farm in southeast Missouri, and that's Wardell, Hayti, Missouri area. And my father grew up on a farm in Casco, Arkansas, just north of Stuttgart. But they had this entrepreneurial spirit, and they brought it to our family. So when they decided they didn't want to farm, they came to Chicago and pursued careers. But they instilled within each one of our family members the resourcefulness, the ability to go out and to create opportunities. And so I think this entrepreneurial vein, more or less the DNA, is just part of who I am and what my family is all about. And it extends to this very day to the things that I'm involved in.
So I believe that some of these future leaders, the FFA members that watch this, that are just getting involved, some of them might have that entrepreneurial itch. They may want to start something. What kind of things would you tell that young entrepreneur that's just getting started?
That's a great question. One of the things that I would tell a young individual today is, first of all, what is it that you love to do? What is it that you're interested in? And based on the things that you like, the companies, the businesses that you enjoy, look for a need in the marketplace amongst your friends, amongst your network that isn't being provided, and seek that out. And try to figure out how can I fulfill this need or an existing product or service, how can I add value and tinker with that and go out and test yourself, because I don't think we can wait for opportunities. You have to create opportunities, and entrepreneurs are creative.
Yeah.
They're very creative at solving problems and creating, I want to say, new products and services, but looking at things that are not being provided or that are being provided and adding value to it.
Yeah. And you don't know this, Cleo, but that's how Mission Matters was started. And this is the thing. I just came out with another book, and in that book I talk about being an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Sometimes like that idea finds you, and it's like whether or not you're going to say yes or no to that idea. So the very first book that we did like this, so the very first Mission Matters book wasn't my idea. It was friends in my network and circle. I was a financial advisor managing money at the time, and I wrote my own book, so it was myself, but I didn't even know what an anthology was other than I'd read Chicken Soup for the Soul growing up.
Good book.
And absolutely. And others were asking me, they say, hey Adam, can you help help me publish a book? Can we come together? Can we do something? And I'm like, no, I don't have time to, I'll manage your money, but I can't help you write a book. I don't know anything about it.
Right.
And they're like, well, you're pretty, so I'm like, no, but then it kept happening. Like God was just doing what he does. And he's like, I'm like, okay, I heard you. The third came, I'm in. Okay. So let me figure this out. And that's really how it all started, was serving a need that was in that community of my sphere of influence, and just really saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you just said, being an accidental entrepreneur, I think opportunities are out there in abundance.
Yeah.
The question is are we willing to take that opportunity to make something out of it? And, whether or not, maybe have a little trepidation or some fear. A lot
of my part, I wasn't cut for it. I didn't say, I was like, everybody thought I was crazy. And I'm like, maybe a little for doing it, but
sometimes being a little bit off kilter, a little bit crazy really is the catalyst to success, because it really drives you to do things differently, to think differently, and to go out and pursue. But you can't have unless you do.
Yeah.
And you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So go out there and try.
Let's talk books. When did this idea of, we'll get into ours a little later, but just in general, you're an author multiple times and working on another book. When did this idea of books come to you?
Growing up, I would say this, the library was one of my favorite places. My mother would take all 9 of her children to the library on the weekends. And the Tallman Branch Library in the west side of the city of Chicago, it was a magical place for me. It was a place where you can discover new opportunities through stories and lose yourself and immerse yourself in books. So I love reading. I love books across all different categories and genres. So that really was the bug for me. Writing became next.
Wow. Did you know so even early on, did you know you would be an author?
I knew I would be an author.
Did you know authors growing up, or was it like?
I didn't know authors, but I knew books.
Yeah.
And so books were so energizing for me. And, and throughout my business career, I always wanted to do one thing. I said, I want to write a leadership book that really intertwined personal and professional values, because I don't think you can separate personal and professional. I think what we do at home is probably what we're going to do at work.
Yeah.
But also take a look at the things that matter from an experience and the things that influence you. But more importantly, put it in a way where anyone can read it, absorb it, digest it, and take it forward. So my leadership books are pretty straightforward. Whether you're an aspiring leader or if you're long in the tooth and forgot a few things, you can remember. But I think they really have these universal truths that are tried, true, and tested. And you know what? I'm proud of it.
Yeah. So let's go through a little bit of your work here today. So I want to talk about multiple. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the first one,
right.
Coffee with Cleo. And Coffee with Cleo came out during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
But it was a 7-year odyssey for me, journey. And this book in particular, I took over time, just these lessons learned. I'm a big, continuous learner. And I love learning as much as I possibly can. And so over 7 years, I took the experiences from my 30 plus years in agriculture, traveling the world and working across different industries and segments within the ag business.
Yeah.
And I applied them to stories. And so this book has 10 leadership stories. And the thing about it is this, I'm pretty vulnerable. I talk about failures because I think failure is your stair step to success. I talk about things that didn't work, but what I learned and how I applied for it. But more importantly, I try to give the reader, not the what, but the so what of it. So if you're looking to join a board, and here's my experience in joining a board, here are 3 steps that you can use today to go out and apply to learn how to join a board. So it's pretty much constructed in that way.
What are some of the things that you hope the reader will walk away with after they go through this? Because I know sometimes it's tricky to get somebody to read a whole book nowadays. I mean, I'm a reader, you're a reader, and we do it. But what do you hope are some of the key takeaways or things they walk away with?
Yeah, the takeaways is the one thing that in my books I try to give people. I give them the formula, but I don't give them the answer because I want you to think.
Yeah.
And one of the takeaways is that this will make you think about who I am, what matters to me, why it matters, and what do I need to do in pursuing my mission, both professionally and personally. And so that's one of the biggest takeaways that you will receive from this book. But the other takeaway that you're going to receive in reading this book is, as it says, Coffee with Cleo.
Yeah.
It's what it is when you sit down and have a cup of coffee with a friend, just like you and I are just chopping it up, having a conversation. This book is written in that style where it is like you and I are having a conversation. And as they would say, quote unquote, real talk. I mean, it's something that anyone can understand and relate to because it's personal, it's vulnerable. And I try to give you again the formula, but not the answer. But what it will do is allow you to go back and think about, how do I take this formula forward and create the answer that I'm looking for? Because there's not a one size fit all, in life. Everyone has their own path.
Yeah. Well, let's tee up the next one. Which one do you want to cover first? Next.
The next one is Lessons from Our Mothers and Fathers. And the impetus behind this book is the fact that I have 20 stories, and 5 are contributed by me, and 15 by other successful leaders across the world. But what I wanted to do was write a leadership book that really took the inspirations from parents, surrogate parents, single parents, just parents in general, and really have the people that were contributing to this book to talk about those influential points that made a difference in their lives. And tell it in their own language, because sometimes it's the message, but when you have good messengers messaging in a different way, I think that diversity and variety really is gold. And so this book is about that. It's stories told in their own voices. And people here are very interesting, very successful, but they made mistakes, but they're all paying homage and honoring their parents.
Wow, that's an amazing concept. And so just to make sure I understand, so people are taking basically when you approach an author, and this is for anybody watching this, just to think about an anthology. So when you approach an author and you bring somebody together and do a collaboration like this, what happens is people want to come with their best.
That's right.
So not only do people want to come with their best, but in this concept, they're coming with the best of not just their own analysis, it's the best of what was handed down to them. Am I off on this?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's the thing about is that I do feel that there's a story in each and every one of us.
Absolutely.
And when we're allowed a platform to not just tell our stories in our own voice, then that authenticity, the realness, the genuineness, I think matters most of all.
Yeah.
But when a person brings their best and they tell their story and share it, I think that is the magic of storytelling. And so, the best way to communicate and to get things across, I believe, is through storytelling. And you're absolutely right. And this book consists of 20 stories that people, again, we have 5 from me, 15 from 15 different leaders, but they're all very different, but unique to them and very, very impactful.
Any story out of the book that you care to maybe share? It could be that you wrote or that one of the authors wrote. Just anything that sticks out.
I'll give you, all of them are good without question, but I'll give one.
Not telling you to pick from your favorites. I do sometimes do that, but we're doing an in-person interview, so I'm not going to do that to you. But if we were virtual, I might do that question.
Well, I think one of the stories that I really loved in this book is one from our good friend Aaron Alejandro. Aaron talks about, the name of his story, the title is Making Smaller Doors Bigger. And when you look at that title, it makes you think, where is he going with this? But his story is a personal reflection on how he was able to understand what his purpose and mission in life was to do. And he came from a situation that's very challenging. And in some respects, some people may say minute and small, but what Aaron took from that whole life experience was, how can I take where I'm at and to enlarging it? Through my network, through my experiences, through my gratitude. And it's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, that's a great one. I'm familiar with Aaron's stories, and for our longtime listeners and viewers, Aaron's been on the show a couple times, of course. We got to snag him for one interview at a conference, though. I haven't gotten one on this one yet. So we have one more book over here.
Yeah, we do. This book came out in January of this year. It's a children's book, and the name of the book is What Do You See When You Look at Me? This book is The inspiration.
Great cover, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. Well, the artist, I have to, Olivia Bosun, one of the best illustrators. She illustrated this book, and she'll be illustrating the next one for me. But that being said, this book is a testament and a celebration of a child's imagination. It's a read-along book for ages 3 to 8 years of age, and it really celebrates the curiosity. I call it the superpower that all children have, and it captures that. But more importantly, it really represents the mindset as a child, and the powerful mindset that has no limits that children bring to the world. And so the inspiration was from my son, Michael Joseph Franklin. Michael is high functioning Asperger's. And when he was in school, some people would look at Michael and only would see him through his Asperger's. But believe me, he, like other children, is like an iceberg. What you see on the surface does not count for what's beneath. And very talented voiceover actor today, thespian on the stage, and he has his own business. But what do you see when you look at me? It's not just on how people see you, but more importantly, how you see yourself and how you can really take it this way to expand horizons and opportunities for a child. And you only can be what you can imagine. So we open the doors for that.
And I think I overheard you're working on another one. Did I hear that right?
Yes, I am.
Man, you're busy. Come on, super author.
Well, super author, I have to thank Lois Franklin for that. She does inspire me and put me to work, without question, my wonderful wife. But the next book is called Conversations with Cleo. And it's going to take a little bit of the best of Coffee with Cleo and the best of Lessons from our mothers and fathers. It'll be 14 stories. I'll contribute half of the stories. And I have some other authors and successful people. And it's taking the success and extending it from there. And as I said earlier, I love hearing stories. I love sharing stories. We learn through the storytelling platform. This book, I think, is going to be, I'm very excited about it. It's one of the, I think it's a pretty good one.
Is there an accompanying, okay, big question. Is there an accompanying podcast? Like you gotta, what's going on?
Well, I have to talk to you, Adam, to understand, to build this podcasting platform.
Well, let me just announce it now. We're getting Cleo a podcast. That's happening one way or another. This has to happen.
Yeah, it's podcasting, and I appreciate what you do and being able to take the information and share it, but you share it through different platforms. And yeah, let's talk about that without question.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into a little bit of what we're promoting here at the event today. So, or excuse me, at the conference this week. So, what do you hope that so a lot of work went into this, a lot of different leaders in Texas. What do you hope from either your chapter or even others that some of the readers walk away with, to kind of give them a flavor?
Yeah, I'll answer it in two ways. This book, this Volume 1 Texas edition, is from leaders that, quite frankly, are giving, as you've said earlier, their best experiences. They're really are very personal and are showing a lot of vulnerability. I think we mentioned that earlier. Yeah. But what I think that people would take away is this: a blueprint, a game plan, or at least some sort of initiation of, you know what, if this is an example of how somebody has done it, struggled, championed, or if this is an example of something that I can learn from someone who's a multimillionaire, why can't I? And so here it is in this book, all together from 14 different people. So this, to me, is something that is more or less a game plan of, what it takes to be successful, but more importantly, how do you hurdle the failures? How do you challenge yourself to go beyond where you are today? But more importantly, how do you collaborate and cooperate with other people to really put together a network of experiences to apply forward and share with others? So that's what I hope people would take away from that.
Were there any kind of surprises, whether it was in the process, the book after you got it, you read it, anything that stuck out as like
the biggest surprise, I'd say, Adam, is the fact that, without question, knowing that I was going to be part of this platform with 14 superb, fantastic people, that you have to your A game. And is it a surprise? Maybe it's more or less of inspiration, right? That I need to be able to provide and at least at par of this fabulous set of colleagues that are pretty darn good. The other surprise that I loved in this particular process was this. Understanding that this would be not just for Texas FFA members, but for people who are nationally involved in FFA, but people who aren't involved in FFA.
Or don't even know what it is.
Yeah, this is for anybody that is looking for insights to success from people across different areas in business, nonprofit and for-profit. And it's right here in this book. I mean, this is aggregated. And I don't think there's anything out there like this.
No, there's not.
And so,
not as a biased publisher, but there's not.
And so,
there's not. And I don't take credit. If it was not for the FFA, and if it were Texas FFA, and Aaron Alejandro, yourself as a board member, and all of the contributors here, could not have happened. It's impossible.
Well, it's and the other surprise is just the opportunity and honor to be invited to be part of the book, which it has me smiling now, and I was smiling then. So.
Well, Cleo, I know you and I can talk about books all day, but we're about out of time on this particular episode, and I'm sure we're going to get you a podcast. We're going to keep you. We're not done with you, Cleo, but
I'm glad.
So that being said, if somebody's watching this or listening to this and they want to follow up and they want to learn more about your books, your brand overall, like what's the best way for people to connect?
Yeah, there's two ways that you can find me. You can find me at www.coffeewithcleo.com or coffeewithcleo.com or Franklin S as in Sam, S as in Sam.com. That's Franklin S as in Sam, S as in Sam.com. You can find me there and just Google me. I'm easy to find. Can't hide on the internet.
And on LinkedIn, Cleo puts out great LinkedIn content. I suggest look him up and definitely connect there because I mean, he puts out great content. I watch his content. So again, thank you, Cleo, for coming on the show, and thank you for all you do.
Appreciate it, Adam. Thanks so much.